we now have that mole.
Yes. Ah, and here he is.
So you're the... By the way, I realized that I have a large mole on my face. Where? What? Where's that mole? I didn't see one.
So this was pretty unexpected. Of all the decks I thought I'd be making a video on from the latest box, NEOS really wasn't one of them. To be fair though, I didn't really think that this little mole was that much of a buff to the deck, considering the vast majority of my games are just reminding my opponent why humanity was a mistake by proceeding to delete half of their starting hand. But honestly, this deck kinda slaps. It's not anything insane that my win rate was only barely positive, but for an archetype like Neo-Spacian that kinda got deleted from existence when Big Daddy Konami took Neo-Fusion to Pound Town, a positive win rate is actually quite the upgrade. So here's the deck list. Now just before I go through it, just a friendly reminder that if you are enjoying this video or find any of the content useful, to please consider liking the video down below, and subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. It's completely free and you can unsub at any time. Alright, let's get into the list. Honestly, I think what surprised me the most about the deck is that even with running literally zero back row removal, I was consistently beating people running multiple back row cards, with a deck that is honestly designed to go first. So that's kind of impressive. Just being able to fusion summon on average 2 times a turn, using materials on field, grave, or deck, along with a bit of destruction protection from Neo's fusion, makes playing through back row a lot easier than I thought it would be. So with this deck, I would say that every single card in the list is pretty core to it, and I wouldn't suggest replacing anything outside of maybe swapping out Space Gift, as I didn't really get a whole lot of use out of it. But to be fair, most of your hand is going to be used as discard fodder anyway, just for your 2 Aquas, but maybe running some kind of back row removal or Book of Moon in this slot might just be better, so feel free to test that out. I just figured that more draw in the deck means more access to Neo's fusion, which is pretty vital to the list, and it's in most of your starting hands due to the amount of draw alone. This deck runs 4 main deck monsters. Connector, when normal summoned, can special summon any Neo-Spacian or Neos from hand or deck, and it may tribute itself to special summon a Neos or Neo-Spacian from the grave. Mole, at the start of the damage step when battling an opponent's monster, may return it to hand along with itself. Dolphin may discard a card to look at your opponent's hand and choose one monster in it. You control a monster with equal or greater attack, destroy the card and inflict 500 damage, otherwise take 500. Then of course you have NEOS, which is just fusion fodder. This deck then has 4 spells. Miracle Contact is basically just a polymerization for the archetype, but it can use hand, field, or grave as a material, and it shuffles the monsters back into the deck. Neo's Fusion is the strongest card in the deck by far, as it allows you to fusion summon any of your extra deck monsters instantly by using your deck as material, and once the spell's in the grave, you can banish it to prevent your fusion monsters from destruction, as well as prevent them from shuffling back into the deck via their own effects. Do keep in mind though that after using this card you will not be able to special summon for the rest of the turn, so make sure you do all of your special summoning first. Space Gift simply draws 1 card for each Neo-Spacian on the field with a different name. And Convert Contact, when you control no monsters, can send 1 Neo-Spacian from your hand and 1 from deck to grave to draw 2 cards. I'm then running 4 extra deck monsters. Grand Mole can be summoned without a spell by shuffling the material you control back into the deck. Once per turn you can target 1 monster and return it to hand. During the end phase, this card is shuffled back into the extra deck, but keep in mind we are running the skill Neo-Space, which gives you the field spell that prevents your cards from shuffling back into the deck, and grants them a 500 attack boost. Brave Neos can be summoned using any level 4 or lower monster, plus Neos, and it gains 100 attack per Neo-Spacian or hero monster in the grave. When it destroys a monster, you can add 1 spell or trap from deck to hand that lists Neos in its card text. Aqua Neos, just like Mole, can be summoned without using a fusion spell, and shuffles back into the deck during the end phase. Once per turn you can discard 1 card to destroy 1 random card in your opponent's hand. And finally, Alucard, which honestly, I don't think I had to summoned once, so if you don't have him I wouldn't even bother. I just wanted to rank 3 in the deck since it's technically quite easy to summon. This guy just kills set cards. Alright guys, that's it for the deck profile portion of the video. The rest of the video will just be gameplay with commentary showcasing each of the combos this deck can go for. If you're enjoying this video or find any of the content useful, please like the video down below and consider subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. Enjoy the gameplay! Alright, let's get into it. So the first few replays are going to be kind of short, so there is 5 replays here. Because the first couple of replays are basically just showcasing how powerful making your opponent have to discard a card actually is. So, yeah. So first game was against an owner map player. And this is basically the ideal turn 1 setup. So we summon we use Convert Contact, which sends 2 Neo-Spacians, 1 from hand, 1 from deck to the grave to draw 2 cards. And because of this, we draw NEOS Fusion. This is basically like how powerful Convert Contact actually is. It can give you NEOS Fusion even though it's limited to 2. So it makes the fact NEOS Fusion may be limited to 2 in most decks, but in this deck, it doesn't feel that way because you just draw into it most games. It's really strong. Anyway, then we summon Neo-Space Connector, which will summon out Aqua Dolphin from deck, then we contribute it, which can summon the other Aqua Dolphin we just sent to the board. And we can use NEOS Fusion to summon a Brave Neos, and now we have 2 cards that can discard 2 cards to remove 2 cards in our opponent's hand because we have a 3000 attack monster on board. This game though, we got a little bit unlucky, kind of, because we went to discard our opponent's hand. He literally only had 1 monster in it, so we couldn't discard 2 cards, but normally you discard 2 cards and it'd be literally a 2 card starting hand. So he has to use his skill to find a monster card just so that he can use his draw 2 himself. And if he doesn't draw well, he literally just has to concede. Didn't draw well, has to concede. So that just shows the power of actually running cards that make your opponent discard and have smaller starting hands. It ruins the consistency of all their decks. Alright, so I'm pretty sure this was a Thunder Dragon? I think. Oh no, this wasn't the Thunder Dragon replay, this was Vampire. Alright. So I don't know if this vampire player really knew how to play the game. I'm not really sure. I guess he just didn't have another option, but setting Vampire Vamp doesn't do a whole lot. I guess he really just didn't have another option. Especially for summoning Takeover with it, or getting Takeover with like the spell maybe. Because Takeover summoning this does literally nothing. This card needs to be normal summoned. But either way. Alright, so we're going to send both Aqua and Mole, so we have 1 of each to choose from. We do our summoning. Neo-Space Connector, going to bring out Aqua, going to tribute it. Bring out second Aqua. Now, I could have summoned Mole here and had a draw 2 using Space Gift, but I want to make my opponent discard 2 cards, so I decided to not do that. I want my opponent to discard 2 cards, and I want to summon a monster that can remove his stuff. So summon Brave Neos, discard both monsters in his starting hand. This guy get a Miracle Contact for next turn. And then he uses Takeover to summon Vampire Vamp, which does a whole lot of jack shit. To be fair, if he drew a vampire, it would have done something, but yeah. This got a little bit Monkeress here, because he's at 700 life points, he uses his skill. So he can go into Utopia Ray, which is normally an OTK card. But luckily our field spell gives us just enough attack where we don't die to this easy OTK. Yeah, and he just gives up. Alright. Now this must be the Thunder Dragon. It's not a very exciting replay, the Thunder Dragon one. But I just thought it was kind of amusing to show how, like, just how strong making your opponent discard cards is. Alright, so once again, Convert Contract, sending 2. Unfortunately, no NEOS Fusion this time, but that's alright. We can summon Aqua Neos anyway, using our Miracle Fusion and the cards we had in grave. And then we use these effects to make our opponent discard a random card, and we hit his Levianeer, which, as you'll see in this replay, is basically game winning. He can't win from here. It was such a good hit. He didn't draw his Lupine, so he was really relying on this card to be able to play the game. Alright, NEOS Fusion. Gonna summon ourselves a Grand NEOS. We're then gonna use Aqua again to destroy a card in hand. We hit a Thunder Dragon Roar. Swing in. He hand traps us. I don't want him to use whatever skill he's got, so I don't swing again. But yeah, there's a hand trap. All you can do, he actually can't do anything. He literally can't do anything. Normally he would just Levianeer here or something, but we've discarded it, so he just can't do anything. We Aqua NEOS to destroy another card in hand. We hit his other hand trap. We then use Grand NEOS to return to hand, and now he's got an empty board, no more hand traps because we made him discard them, and he just dies. Yeah, hand traps don't protect you very well against a deck that makes you discard your hand. Alright, Cyber Dragon. So I think this guy basically just misplayed, or doesn't really play against NEOS stuff all that often, which I don't blame him, who does. So he searches for the overflow, sorry. So we convert contract, draw 2, and we hit the NEOS Fusion. We hit 2 NEOS Fusions, in fact. So then we summon our Aqua Dolphin, tribute it off, summon back the other Aqua Dolphin, then we use Miracle Contact. I wanted to do this because if I activated NEOS Fusion now, he could have used his trap and destroyed the 2 monsters, which would have been really bad. So I thought I'll just summon out an Aqua NEOS, see what he does. He was greedy, decided I'm not going to use my trap card just yet. Very greedy, because now we can use, as a cost, just discard NEOS Fusion to the grave, and now our monsters are just protected from destruction, so we're just protected from that overflow. Summon our second NEOS card, and he was just doomed from here. Now he activates the trap, he can't do anything with it. Really can't do anything. NEOS Fusion is just so good, man. It's really the reason this deck is good into, not that bad into back row, without having back row removal in it. If they're playing some kind of destruction back row, it does nothing. They need to have things like Book of Moon or Karma Cut. Most of the back row isn't all that useful. And even then, something like a Book of Moon isn't as useful, because turning a monster face down to swing into it, it probably still gets protected by the NEOS Fusion to stop it from dying. Alright, and here's a good example of this. Opponent sets 3, sends a Shiranui to the grave. So convert contact, draw 2, Miracle Contact. Of course uses our Floodgate Trap Hole. We don't care too much though, we have another summon to do. And now we've got his Floodgate Trap Hole out of the way. So if he doesn't have another one, and he has like some kind of destruction removal here, it does literally nothing, we just don't care. And by the looks of things, that's what it was, because he couldn't get through it. So you're a little bit lucky, and he drew a hold of his other level 2, so he could make a level 8. A little bit nasty. I decided to protect my monster here, I don't want it dying just yet, especially considering I have another NEOS Fusion in hand. NEOS Fusion, summon our Grand Mole, so even if this thing had 5,000 attacks still, it wouldn't matter. We can just return it to hand, or extra deck. Of course, it was Destruction Removal in Ballista Squad, and we're all good. By the way, for those wondering why I didn't summon Grand Mole on the previous turn, if you haven't read Samurai Skull's effect, if this guy leaves the field during an opponent's card effect, it'll special summon something, so best not to try to return that to hand. Not that you really want it in hand anyway. But yeah, that's it for the gameplay portion. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed or find it useful in any way, feel free to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you've got any feedback or, I don't know, questions or something, feel free to drop a comment. I read most of them. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.